This edition of Mac Voices is sponsored by Molecule, the reinvented air purifier. For $75 off your first order, visit molecule.com and use the promo code MacVoices at checkout. Welcome to Mac Voices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. And actually, folks, this is welcome to a little bit of an experiment. We're trying something new using Zoom. We're trying a town hall meeting where pretty much anybody can come and go as they please, join in and comment, and toss it in. So we don't know how this is going to work. I advertise it as being something new, and it could turn into chaos. And especially with the group we have here, I'm voting for chaos, but we will see. I am going to go around the room and at least introduce the folks who are here as we start out. And if more come, great. And if some leave, that's fine too. So working down just on the way this presents to me, first up, Mr. Dave Ginsburg. Dave, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Hey, Chuck. Glad to be here. This is a lot of fun.
Yes. Oh, that's interesting. So it jumps around on me. Lovely. Okay, so here we go. Next up, Mr. Chuck Tournous. Chuck, welcome back.
Hello, Chuck. Thanks for having me. I think the experiment was to see how many middle-aged white guys we could get on one podcast, and we almost have a full house. It's awesome.
Okay. Well, that was not the intent, Chuck, but you know. Let's see. Up next, Mr. Mike Potter. Mike, welcome.
Hey, Chuck. Great to be here.
Thanks for joining us for the experiment.
Yes, I'm hoarse from all that talking about the new iPhone today and everything.
Yeah. Well, you'll be doing more now. So
yeah.
Let's see who else we have. Mr. Jeff Gamet with us. Jeff, welcome.
It's always great to get to hang out with you, Chuck. And if I'm going to experiment with anyone, I want it to be you.
Thank you, I think. I'm not quite sure about that.
That's a whole different podcast.
Wait. What's the show tonight? Yeah. Awkward.
G-rated.
Oh
boy. Mr. Mike Bronner is here. Mike, welcome. I think this is probably your first time on a live Mac Voices.
Yes. Been listening all this while. Finally get to join in.
Terrific. We're delighted to have you. Let's see, who else do I have here? We have LBJ Nixon. LBJ, can you hear us? Okay, she can't hear us right now, but she's here.
Okay, I can hear you now.
Oh, good. Hi. How are you? Thanks for joining in.
Thank you for inviting.
You're not a middle-aged white guy. This is good.
Thank you so much for being here.
Is there anyone else I have missed? I don't think so. I think
George Rubin.
Oh, George Rubin is here?
Yeah.
Why am I not? Oh, yes, there it is. Sorry.
He doesn't have his cam on.
Okay, so George Rubin is here. George, whenever you get your camera up and running, we will say hello to you as well. So, guys, this is kind of a very free-form discussion of what we saw today with Tim Cook. And I will start it out by asking how many of you saw his tweet right before the show started.
Yep, I saw it.
That was very clever.
Yeah,
I did see the tweet.
Yep. Folks, if you don't know what I'm talking about, the tweet went something like, it looked like a misdirected direct message. And that's what, the Twitter was buzzing about. It was something to the effect of, do you have anybody that can get it here on time? And
yeah. Okay.
that played right into the opening video so well.
Right.
It was
perfect timing.
Yeah.
And as it turned out, it was the only unexpected thing from the entire keynote.
That's good. Yes.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Apple still can surprise us.
Well, and I thought it was interesting that they threw it out to a social media channel and, had a little fun with it. I thought that was, great. And who knows, maybe that's why.
No, they was trying to be real creative with it. I mean, even the opening video was very creative.
It was fun.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, although Tom Merritt wondered on Twitter how many OSHA violations were created by the making of that video. I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, that's funny.
I'm sure there were permissions signed and all kind of documents signed to prevent any problems there.
No Apple employees were actually harmed in the making of this video.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So that was just a nice, fun little way to start, because I think everybody, there's no way you really believe that Tim Cook made that kind of mistake. But at the same time, it was done with such a short time span, short time before it started, there really wasn't a chance to speculate it on or analyze it or anything. We just sort of went with it. So.
Yeah, the timing was perfect.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, the production values of the thing were just off the charts. It was just incredibly well done, and I would love to know how much they spent on that, but they will never tell us.
No, never.
It was an interesting way too to literally run us around the new Apple campus.
Yeah.
Without running us around the new Apple campus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I want to see how many employees kind of take the lead from the video and walk through the pond in the next few weeks. And what happens to them?
I want to know why the running employee didn't slide down the rail. I mean, come on.
Oh, yes.
That would have just been perfect.
Yep.
Yeah.
I did like the big slamming doors that, she got out. It was like the Star Trek warp core breach scene.
Oh, yes.
And I just wondered, there have to be safety precautions in the actual doors to prevent that from ever happening, right? But it's just so cool to imagine it.
Agreed.
Hey, Kelly Guimont just joined us.
Kelly Guimont is here.
Kelly.
Hi, guys.
Now it's a party.
Hi. That's a big party.
Yeah, adding to our collection of middle-aged white men.
Yes, thank you.
What have you heard?
I'm sorry, Kelly.
That was Jeff's comment at the beginning.
No, it was all Jeff. I know.
Yeah.
It's funny that way.
So, Kelly, we're just sort of catching up. We're talking about Tim Cook's tweet and the resulting video before the announcement started.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like they try too hard with the intro when they're trying to make a joke, or do something in order to be funny. And this time I felt like it actually worked.
It did.
Like, it was a little lower key than they've tried to be before. Like, hey, look at us, and look how we're like all hip with the young people, and they didn't have to do that. And so I enjoyed that that it actually seemed to go off pretty well.
That's true. They did not have a hello, fellow students feel.
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
greetings, youngs.
There's a fine line between that kind of goofy corporate tech geek attempts at being funny and actual funny. And I kind of wondered if Apple was putting some of the Apple TV talent that they bought in the past few months to use in writing the script.
I like that. Yeah.
Because it was good. It was actually good.
Yeah, I did. It was less greetings, fellow youngs, or whatever that GIF is of Steve Buscemi in the backwards hat.
Right.
It was less that and more like actually a little bit amusing. Like, I didn't expect it to be, the most hilarious thing I'd ever seen or anything like that. I just expected it to be kind of entertaining, and it was kind of entertaining. And we're off to the races. Like, that video at the beginning is not why I show up.
Right. It was sort of, NBC introducing its new fall lineup skit funny rather than,
rather than actual SNL funny.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I see George Rubin has got his camera on. George, welcome. It's good to see you. I see Frank just came in as well. Frank, welcome.
Hey, Frank.
Hey.
So let's get into the actual announcements. I thought it was interesting that they started out with the Apple Watch, because in a lot of ways it felt like Apple Watch may have been the star of the show.
It was. I mean, when it started right out, it really seemed like it was. They were going to make it the big star because they're so impressed with the fact that the watch has grown in such a short period of time. But yeah, it seemed like it was the star of the show.
It was like, holy crap, we finally figured out what the watch is for.
Yeah.
Now let's tell everybody.
Yeah.
That's the way I took it. I mean, I've been tweeting all over the place. I haven't been this excited about the Apple Watch since the original one. And I don't think I was this excited about the original one. This one is fantastic. It's got so many cool things. The one surprise that did come out in this whole thing, at least for me, I know it broke really late, but I was trying to avoid things at that point, was the watch is an EKG machine. That's just incredible.
It's amazing.
Yeah, that was the tipping point for me. I was watching everything about the Apple Watch and thinking, I want this so bad. But my Apple Watch Series 3 is really good. And then they said, oh, and by the way, ECG. And I'm like, well, crap, there's $400.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I'm on Series 0 right now. This is still the OG Apple Watch. So I was already like overexcited for Series 4. And then to find out that it's going to give me an extra batch of information around the outside with the extra corners, like that was even better. And I think that they managed to avoid riots in the streets by saying all of the watch bands you already have are going to fit the new ones, even though they're an eensy bit bigger. I think that was a really smart move on their part.
That was a very smart move.
yeah, that was huge.
I'd like to say the thing that got me was I met some of you guys at Macstock, which I've known Chuck forever, but I'm wheelchair bound. And they added some features into the Series 4, which make it perfect for somebody that's in a wheelchair. Like the fall function, my God. I mean, I always have my iPhone with me with the wheelchair, but I always have to make sure I carry it. If I forget it, I'm screwed. So, like, there was so much health stuff in this version that I finally went, yeah, it's maybe time to drop the dime.
Well, and one thing that I thought was interesting, when I was on Mac Break Weekly earlier today.
Wait.
Well, this really stuck with me in the conversation we were having, because Alex Lindsay said that this is a very good way for people to pay more attention to their health information.
Yes.
And to me, the thing about it is that's like the inverse of that is what's true, because you don't have to pay attention. Like if you're already a person who wears a watch and you just start wearing a different watch and it gives you like historical heart rate information, or if you're a person who has or is suspecting that you have a heart issue, you can just record that data every time you feel a little funny, and you will have all of that to go take to the doctor and be like, here's what's up. And so, but you don't have to do anything for that to happen. And that to me is the part of this that's the most exciting. Like one thing I said, I think in the Mac Observer Live blog today when we were watching, was that I think everybody just figured out what their parents are getting for Christmas.
Yeah.
Like they always get, mom and dad always get my old iPhone or whatever. And so now I know they have a phone that supports an Apple Watch. And so now I'm going to get them an Apple Watch. And now I know that if my dad has a fall, like he's not stuck, or like this actually did happen to my mom. She was out on a bike ride with my stepdad and she was behind him. He got home early and she came around a corner and hit like a dip in the road, wrecked her bike and broke her hip.
Oh.
And she was laying in the road, and he looked back, didn't see her, and immediately went back for her. So it's not like she was there forever or anything, but that's what happened. And she would have had the option, had she been wearing that, if that had happened, say this spring instead of a couple of years ago, like if she was already wearing an Apple Watch, then she would have hit the deck and her watch would have popped up and gone, I think you fell, you need to call somebody. And she'd have been like, yup. And then it would have been done. I'm her emergency. I would probably be her emergency contact. So I would find out what was going on, and it would be a much less frightening experience, I guess, for me. But it also would have been easier for her because she would have had an easy way to call for help. Like my mom was a grade school teacher. My mom was a very grade school teacher demeanor. She's not a person whose first thought is going to be, I need to be as loud as I can and draw attention to the fact that this is what's happening. That's not how she rolls. Right. She's not me. Right. So, like when they were going through some of the health stuff with like the heart monitor and being able to do that and the EKG information, actually the first two people I thought about were the two of you, Chuck and Jeff. with the experiences you've had with Apple Watch helping you out, and how many more people, like the potential for this to help so many more people with what they were, with what they're building.
Chuck, me?
Yeah, I think Chuck, you, not Chuck.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that was definitely going through my mind. And the first thing is, I'm going to let the name dropping of Mac Break Weekly slide, because before you joined the show, I name dropped Tom Merritt, whose show I was on last week. That's neither here.
Oh, my head hurts. I'm getting a headache.
But I'm watching the announcement, and they start talking about these preemptive, heart rate monitoring features and the fall indicator and all that. And as you mentioned, Kelly, the specific health issue that I had, I discovered it, and I was convinced that it was a real health issue because of my Apple Watch. And had it had this feature, boom, I mean, it would have happened that much faster. So that was absolutely going through my mind. And I have an elderly mother too, who had a fall last week, actually wound up breaking one of her vertebrae. Luckily, she did it when there was a friend there with her, but had that friend not been there, again, similar to your experience, I don't know how long she would have been there without being able to reach for help. So the conundrum I'm going through right now is, am I the nice son who gets my mother the Apple Watch first, or am I a jerk who buys it first for myself? I don't, I'm still kind of grappling with that. But yeah, I mean, in
Chuck,
either
they'll
case,
let you buy 2 at a time.
No. You can't. I'm going to give you my wife's phone number and let her know that.
I'll call.
Okay. But but absolutely, these are important features. I have a Series 02, and I've resisted upgrading every single one because the faster I can live without, whatever other, the waterproof I can live without. But these are true, really, I think, fundamentally groundbreaking, life-changing upgrades to the phone that puts it in a whole new light and lifts it to a whole new level. And I think this is a really important upgrade to the phone for a lot of people.
I want to jump in here. I want to welcome Norbert Frassa. I see he signed in. Hello, Norbert. Good to have you.
Hello.
Thanks for being here. I also want to make sure that we mention, we're talking a lot about all these cool features, but something that they sort of slid by and it got a round of applause was this is FDA approved.
Yeah.
I mean, so this is not a toy, and this is not something that's dancing around the edges here. This is now a serious piece of medical equipment, which...
Yeah, that approval is huge.
Over-the-counter medical equipment.
Right.
Like, I don't need a doctor's note to go buy a new Apple Watch.
Right. So, and it just happens to be part of something that we are all already using. Mm-hmm. So there's not that barrier to deciding to use it. The biggest barrier is you have to open up the app and turn it on. But other than that,
but once it's on, it's on. And I thought it was really important and really telling to how important Apple feels this is and how well they implemented it, that they had the president of the American Medical Association there. Mm-hmm. He was a cardiologist himself who was touting the features there. And the only thing I wanted to figure out was when you do the EKG or ECG now, I guess, where does the little tape come out of the watch so that you can see the reading?
Oh, did you see the side view? There's like 2 little slots right down here.
Yeah, there's a little...
Good. I knew it had to be somewhere.
So...
The paper's really expensive, though.
Yeah.
Oh, seriously.
Well, it's 64-bit paper.
Yes.
Yeah, and you thought laser printer cartridges were spendy. I have a theory about the FDA piece of this, and that is the heart rate stuff is non-intrusive. It's just a monitor, so it's just giving you information. So however slow or fast your heart beats, it's just telling you. It doesn't influence that in any way. So my hunch is that they took a shot at the heart rate monitoring and the EKG and the ECG stuff first, because now that they've gone through a round of stuff with the FDA and walked through it, I think like the next wave of this stuff is going to be tools and monitoring and hooking up with blood sugar meters and dosage for diabetic people. I think that's the next wave of this. Now that they've done a round of FDA, they know what it is, how it works, what it takes to get approval, what kind of hoops you have to jump through. I think next is going to be something that will actually influence your health, like blood, like your watch can talk to your glucose monitor or something. Like I have a friend that has like the insulin pump that's like mounted like permanently on her body, and it would be something where those two communicate and it tells you, that's what's happening. So that's my theory. I don't know whether or not it comes from my house of crackpot theories, but that's my theory, is that that's the next thing we're going to see when we get another Apple Watch event where we get new Apple Watches. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah. Anybody, we're talking about some very serious parts, so let's take it over to something maybe not quite so serious. Was anybody surprised that we have a 40 and a 44 millimeter version and no 38 millimeters anymore?
I was a little surprised that they increased the size of the face, but I was happy to know that they kept the size of the watch so that we all can keep our bands, because that was really a concern all by itself. Is gosh, we all have I'm sure most of us in this room have an investment in a lot of bands, and I don't want to have to go out and buy new bands for my watch. So it was pretty awesome. They were able to make a larger size screen, but leave the form factor the same. But I was a little surprised. And of course, it was Mac Rumors had it like before we got on to watch it, so it wasn't much of a surprise. But no, I'm not surprised that they were able to do that.
I think that's mostly to accommodate that much bigger screen, 35% bigger screen. But I am curious, and I don't know if anybody was actually out there and had the chance to try one. In the video, the watches all looked huge to me, and I don't know whether they just picked thin-wristed models or if that extra 2 millimeters is really going to make that big a difference. But boy, it looked kind of huge.
Now the 40, because that's a lot of people. Some like the smaller size watch face. It didn't seem that much bigger because it's not adding the size of the watch. It's adding the size to the screen itself.
Well, the watch is
the watch itself is bigger.
Yeah,
it's thinner,
but wider.
Yeah.
What's interesting,
a smoosh bigger, like diagonally.
Yep.
No.
Is that Apple measures it via vertically, not diagonally.
Yes, that is absolutely true. Yep.
Yeah, which is not what we normally get for a screen size we measure.
But it is normal for a watch, right? So is it 44 inches vertically and horizontally? Because it's a square shape.
That's a big watch.
44 inches, a damn big watch.
It is.
44.
That's like the size of a fifth grader.
I'll wait for iFixit to do the investigation on that.
This edition of Mac Voices is sponsored by Molecule, the reinvention of the air purifier. Whether you're suffering from pollen, smoke, pet dander, or some other air pollutant, Molecule can help. Molecule doesn't just trap or filter the pollutants in the air in your home or office, it destroys them at a molecular level. Molecule is something new, not just a rehash of old technology. The HEPA filter you thought was state-of-the-art is actually around 70 years old, developed during the Second World War. Molecule takes advantage of today's technology and uses photoelectrochemical oxidation nanotechnology to help eliminate mold, bacteria, viruses, and more, up to 1,000 times smaller than a HEPA filter can capture. This means that you will have cleaner air than possibly you've ever had. One Molecule customer said that she was able to breathe through her nose for the first time in 15 years. Since receiving my Molecule, I haven't had the issues with sleep and allergies that I usually experience at this time of year, and I was honestly expecting this to be a very rough year because of all the rain we've had in my area. Everything is growing and blossoming and throwing pollen all over the place, and I haven't noticed because of my Molecule. But who wants a piece of medical-looking equipment in their living room? Molecule has a sleek aluminum shell and blue LEDs that give it a subtle, futuristic look without calling attention to itself. The Molecule app lets you adjust the fan speeds without having to touch the unit, and also to have your filters shipped to you when you need them automatically. And unlike some air filters, changing both the pre-filter and nano filters is a snap. I can't imagine anyone not wanting a Molecule in their home, and that's why I'm delighted to tell you that, as a Mac Voices listener, You can save $75 on your first purchase by going right now to molecule.com. That's MOLEKULE.com and using the code MacVoices at checkout. Again, that's molecule.com and the code MacVoices at checkout to save $75 on cleaner air for your home or office. You won't be disappointed. Thanks to Molecule for sponsoring this edition of MacVoices.
Yeah.
Does anybody here wear a 38 millimeter watch at this point?
Yeah.
I do.
Okay, so a couple of you do. Any disappointment that you don't have a 38 millimeter to migrate to? You're going to have to go to a 40 if you want the Series 4?
I was looking for actually a smaller. The smaller the tech is, for me, the more unobtrusive it is, the more the weight is, the better the tech. So if it's a big thing on my wrist, it's more like a clunky deal. I'm not a big watch guy, so I was a little disappointed that it got bigger.
Yeah, I would have preferred that it stay at 38 millimeters, but considering what they're doing, I get why it has to be a little bit bigger.
Yep.
If it had gone like up to 42, the 42 millimeter watches have always been too big for me. I never liked them. They were too clunky and too heavy for my taste. So 40, that's kind of pushing the limit for me.
Yeah.
Did
LBJ?
anyone else notice that the radius of the corners seem to have changed to their
It has.
To their custom corners, like the laptops have that. I forgot what that's called. What the name is.
The chamfered edges.
Yes, well, not chamfered, but it has a certain radius that's not tangential at any point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's curvier. It's rounderer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Round.
Yeah. But it's also thinner. So what I'm hoping is that when I get the 40 on my teeny arm, that because it's thinner, even though it's a little bit more, like to look at the face, it's going to be like a tiny bit taller. I'm hoping that by being closer to my arm, that it's going to actually come out as a wash. Like it's not going to be as obtrusive, but I'm happy to trade those 2 millimeters for all that extra information, because I am the person who will load that sucker up like the one that they show with like maximum complications. Like that will always be my watch face because I want to see all the things. It doesn't matter if I need to see all the things right now. I just want them all there.
I feel bad for developers because now they have to do double complications because they need the watchOS 4 and now watchOS 5.
And watchOS 5, yeah. Well, and that's only when they're not busy with the 97 screen sizes and notch availability options on iOS. Like,
yeah.
Before we even get that far.
Does the thickness include the crystal on the bottom or just the watch housing? I wonder if the crystal got thicker because of that diode that's on there now.
I don't know.
I don't know that.
I always thought the sensor pod crystal thing on the bottom was included in the thickness measurement.
Yeah, I assumed it was. I don't know that for sure.
Because a lot of people complained about the Series 3, I think, being very uncomfortable because of that.
LBJ wanted to ask a question. LBJ, is your mic on?
I think so. I'm pretty sure it's on.
Yep, we can hear you. What's your question?
The question was, the device that you touch and you get your heart rate and it accumulates this. With the watch number 1, I had difficulty that, with mine anyway, the consistency of the heart rate was fluctuating wildly. And I never matched the ones that I had taken, for example, at the doctor's office.
Okay.
What watch do you have? What series is it?
I have the first one.
Okay. What is your band? Because I find that mine sometimes I'll have to unlock it again because I have one band where I'm like in between buckle holes. And so if I wear it where it's comfortable, it flops around a lot and it loses contact with my wrist.
Possibly, but mine, I wear it pretty tight, so I don't think that was occurring. And also what I was, understanding, or rather seeing, for example, if I wore the watch Wednesday and Thursday I didn't wear it, and there was still data on Thursday. That in itself was very disconcerting.
That's kind of creepy.
Yeah, it is, because not only that, but I checked it, with the Apple Store and whatnot, and I said, well, what's going on with that? It's not possible to have more than one iPhone to be accessing your data on the Apple Watch. And that, plus the weights were different. For example, I weigh a certain amount of weight, and when I looked at the histograms and whatnot, and they were like, this person was weighing 160 pounds and was like 5'6", 5'7", really creeped me out.
That is strange.
No, it is. And I had to, not only that, but for many, many times, I had to reinstall and resync, on pair and all that kind of stuff. And this is something, I question the accuracy of it. And when I'm at the store, for example, everything is working perfectly fine. And here at home, it is not. And, it's set and sunk and everything else at the store. And you come home and, you charge your phone and you charge your Apple Watch. And the next thing you know, the next day, the data is totally, false. Yeah, it is. It's weird, and there's no explanation that I can, clarify on that.
Yeah, hopefully we have a new version of the Watch OS coming.
Could it be a bug, Kelly?
I don't know. I just do a lot of tech support. So, of course, the first thing I'm going to do is ask you like 19 questions and see if I can get to the bottom of what happened. Because that's what I do. So,
first, go to the start menu. Oh, sorry.
Turn it on or off.
Yeah. Well, and
unplug it and then plug it back in.
Yeah, and some of these things, not making any excuses, but if you had the original Apple Watch, hopefully we have a new one that the sensors are better. I'm sure Apple has learned a lot about all of these things. Because this is the first watch that had the FDA approval. So, we're moving ahead that far.
No, I'm just curious about the whole situation, because it's not just that, but other, small glitches that are, either bugs or, security updates and whatnot that are, I'm keeping up to the very top of the iOS, so it shouldn't occur.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I'm not trying that transporter feature that they showed in that intro video until the watch is out of beta.
That's a good call. Maybe wait for iOS or watchOS 5.0.1 before you try the transporter feature, because no one wants our molecules scrambled across the galaxy.
That's right.
No.
What's the worst?
We've all seen what can happen.
Well, but the video that they showed for the Apple Watch, I thought that was really cool. Like all the different people that they showed. Like there was the ballerina with the mechanical leg, and there was like a couple of people that were in wheelchairs, and how like the benefits for people in loads of different kinds of situations, not just like I'm a runner and I run a lot and my Apple Watch is super great. Like all kinds of different activity, all kinds of different mobility levels. And I thought that was super great to see, and that they didn't do it in a way, Apple never does, but they didn't do it in a way like, look at us and all the different stuff we're representing. They just laid it out there like it wasn't a big deal, which it shouldn't be. And so to me, that was pretty great.
The Hokey Pokey video was great. I loved it.
I did enjoy the Hokey Pokey. That was pretty awesome.
I missed so much in the when they started showing the videos, that's when I am face down,
head down,
keyboard, because that's when I can try and catch up on everything they said. So I'm gonna have to go back and watch all the cool videos. I enjoyed the Hokey Pokey song
while you were typing.
While I was typing. Yep.
Well, my Samsung using son said, "Can't they just show the videos and skip all the talking parts?"
Yeah. Oh, Kelly, you said it during MacWeek briefly today, saying that they seems like they did a lot of filler to get the time through.
They did, like I really wonder what. I mean, I have a lot of theories, but I wonder what wasn't ready in time.
No.
That we had to hear all of the same stuff that went into the new iPhone 10s. That went into the 10C, which is what I'm going to call it because it comes in colors, and that's what Apple taught me you do with a phone that comes in colors. It's a C.
Kelly, it's an R. It's the iPhone 10 RAR.
No, it's color. The R is for
color.
red. Yeah.
Color.
So
yeah, the color.
like why did you told me all of the stuff that you here's what's in the new iPhone 10. All these things, and aren't they great? And now here's the new iPhone 10C, and here's all the same stuff again. And we're not going to spend any time on the part that's actually interesting,
right,
which is the 10C has one lens, not two like the other phones do, but still does all the portrait mode and what have you with that one lens, which I think is actually almost cooler than the fact that you need a whole extra lens in order to do it with the other ones. But why did you tell me all that stuff again? Like, is it because you still can't get the AirPower mat out the door?
Right.
Is it because the new AirPods aren't ready yet for some reason unbeknownst to the rest of us? Like, I feel like something got pulled at the last minute, and they know that they can't come in with an 80 or a 90-minute event anymore because people are going to go, Apple has nothing to announce. It only took them an hour and a half doomed.
Right. So I wasn't on MacBreak Weekly, but I was in the Slack. Okay. And just as good from my perspective. But I'm just kidding, Leo. Please invite me. But
hey, Andy invited me. I'm only ever on in an unofficial capacity. I'm never on with Leo. I'm only ever on with Andy.
I'm having a long talk with Andy after this podcast. So there was a lot of speculation going on because the watch portion of the event only took about a half an hour, maybe 35 minutes. And we're like, they're blasting through this stuff. There's got to be a big one more thing. There's got to be something else coming. And even the phone stuff, they were going through pretty quickly. And then they did this iOS 12 demonstration, which kind of lasted forever. And it's stuff we already heard of. And that's when I kind of got a little scared. And I'm thinking there was something else that was supposed to go in this slot, and it wasn't ready. So, there's the stage manager making the, stretch motions out there, and they're filling at this point.
And we didn't get a lot of iOS 12. I mean, we got a date, but we didn't get, let's review all the stuff that we told you in June. There's a screen time thing now to keep you off the book face for extended periods of time. There's this that's coming. There's, night mode that's better. There's this other feature that's super duper awesome, whatever. Like, they didn't go into any of the software pieces of iOS 12 at all, which are already known quantities, but you could have brushed up. Like, this is what's coming, even if you're not buying one of these new iPhone 10s that we're showing you.
Although they spent a lot of time on ARKit too, I think.
Yes, they did.
I think they were a little excessive on that. And
yes.
And
well, at the expense of all the other stuff they could have told us,
Right.
But they usually have
But oh my God, Galaga like that.
I thought Galaga was awesome.
Oh, yeah, it got warm in here when I was watching the Galaga AR demo. I'm not going to lie. That looked really awesome.
I got to tell you, that's not where I want AR to go, though. I think the AR stuff in gaming is a niche. I don't think it's going to really go a lot farther without the goggles or glasses or whatever. But I think there's a lot of cool stuff that can go on with AR.
You know what it is, though, is that it's an in. It's a way to introduce people. Right. It's like the fly SWAT game to teach people about the mouse. It's the same thing. We're going to give you a game, and it's a known quantity. I mean, what percentage of the audience was not born when Galaga came out in the first place? True. So, like, the fact that that's sort of a known quantity, people know how that works. Like, I know what Galaga is. I know what it does. It's a video game. I played a lot of it as a kid, whatever. And then you take that and go, okay, now if you can play this in AR with other people, here's how it works. And I feel like that's a good in for that to be a thing. And then once people are used to AR in the gameplay capacity, like, oh, isn't this nifty? That's when we start getting the cool stuff, and people aren't afraid of it. There's no hurdle. It's not complicated. It's not weird because I've already done this. It's the same stuff that I do to play Galaga or Full Contact Pac-Man Extreme or whatever comes next. You know, that's where it's going to go, is then we can start getting the super cool stuff out of it and not just from people who know how to bend metal to their will.
I agree. We have to learn how to use it first. It was like the home button on the original iPhone first. Just hit the home button and you're going to go to the beginning. And you can start from, and now there's no home button, and now there's so many more gestures, and it's way more sophisticated, and we're all okay with that.
Yeah.
Jeff, you said something, but we couldn't hear it. Say it again.
Did we lose you, Jeff?
Jeff?
He's muted.
Jeff is inadvertently muted.
I think you're muted, Jeff.
Or maybe it's advertently muted.
It's the first time that's ever happened to Jeff.
I had a dialogue that popped up that said that the host muted me. So what's up with that, Chuck?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. If I did, I hit it by accident.
That was just Chuck trolling you. He muted you and went, Jeff, you had something to say. We couldn't hear you.
I'm sure it was going to be really smart, Jeff.
It's riveting, I'm sure.
Let's hear it, okay?
Yeah. Anyhow, what I was saying was that I was glad they showed the AR stuff because it gives us a taste of what can be done and what the hardware is capable of, even though it's games. And like Kelly said, it's the thing that people are comfortable with. And games they drive the technology. So what you see with gaming today is what you see in Excel 2 years from now, essentially. So, so the things that Apple was showing today, that's going to carry over into more useful things in a couple of years. But I think Apple's at the point now where they need to come out with the glasses, because it just felt kind of awkward doing the AR stuff, holding a slab up.
So I agree with a lot of what you said. I'll take exception to a couple things. I think rather than show us what is going to be in Excel in a couple of years, I think it's going to be what's going to be in like Stop and Shop in your Home Depot app in a couple of years.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I think that's where AR is going. I'm still not really sold on glasses. I think there's still a lot more that we can do with things on the phone without having to wear glasses, which I think are going to be obtrusive and a really socially weird thing to work through. And maybe we'll do it. I think it's going to start in niche applications. I don't know when it's going to get mainstream. Maybe it will someday, but I think that's a higher hurdle. We talked about this on the Slack too, about people holding up their phones in front of their faces. Go to any major city in America, and you're going to see that happening now. So I don't know whether it's worse if at least they're seeing what they're walking into on their phone with AR and put on top of it, rather than just seeing their Facebook feed while they're walking down the street. So I don't know that that's a huge hurdle.
The first thing I think of with ARKit is things like, as far as non-game applications of it, a good use for it is more things you wouldn't be able to see otherwise necessarily without an assist. So medical uses, like being able to actually show off, like, to go back to the Apple Watch, like, here's what a healthy heart looks like, and you came in because your watch has given you all these alerts, and we've taken a scan, and here's what your heart looks like, but I can show it to you on, like, say, an iPad screen, because it's iOS. Like, I can show it to you on the iPad screen, and, like, you can see where this is different from that, or, like, x-rays of, here's somebody with arthritis, and here's somebody without arthritis, and you can see the difference in the joints in your hand. This is what, this is the reason that you have the pain or whatever, and being able to understand a little bit of that, and then be able to show, like, you know, if we give you these shots, or if you take this drug, or if we do this sort of treatment regimen, like, this is what you can expect to improve, and being able to illustrate that, like, in person for somebody where they can actually see it and, you know, spin the model around and tip it upside down and look at it from all different ways. That seems like a super useful thing. You know, like, we all know, like, one of the first apps to try anything resembling AR was the IKEA app, because it was like, will the couch at IKEA fit in your living room, and you can drop it in. Like, I can see things like that, like with the Home Depot app, like what you were talking about, that would be a really practical use as well. What I'm excited about with it is the stuff that I can't think of, because I feel like the potential there is huge. Just like the potential now that the Apple Watch is an FDA approved device, you know, what that unlocks as far as down the road, like what we're going to have in 2 or 3 years with that. That's how I feel about the AR stuff as well. Like, showing me Galaga was super great, but what was the greatest about it was 2 years from now, what that actually means for us in terms of practical applications. I don't think it's going to be Excel Extreme like Jeff thought it was.
Well, I was using Excel.
We're picking on Jeff.
I know.
Yeah. No, it's fine.
It's what I do. That's my other podcast, is Hassling Jeff Gamet. You can find it on the Mac Observer Network.
It's the best-selling show.
I want to get Mike Bronner in here, because he's asking a question about AR that I think is interesting. Mike?
Oh, yeah, this is kind of a side question. From what I understood, the XR model won't have these AR capabilities. Is that correct?
No, it will.
Yeah.
Even with the single lens?
Think so?
Yeah, AR has never required 2 lenses.
Mm-mm.
It's been about the processor, not about the lenses.
So
I think I have limited AR on my 8.
Why not just have 1 lens?
The 2 lenses are mostly to do with photography, and they enable optical zoom I think that's their big stuff, and some low light features that it adds as well.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the extra. What is it? It's not a zoom lens. It's just a different lens.
Right.
You have a wide angle and a 2x telephoto.
Right, and they can combine those with the software to create what's essentially I'd say true in quotes optical zoom.
How does everybody feel about this computational photography? That seems to be a phrase now that's cropping up, and Apple seems to be probably at the forefront of it. That they're trying to do things in software and hardware that, otherwise would have to be done with lenses.
I think it's pretty cool. I mean, as long as it's done well. So if you have good software, being able to augment these images so you can get better photos, that's really cool.
I think it's kind of neat that now people that have the ideas but don't have the technological know-how, because I've known people that have come up to me with stories that have a degree in film who really have like a brilliant idea, but they could never pull it off technically. Now, somebody like I've known some photographers, people who aren't necessarily photographers, if they see something and have this amazing vision of something they're seeing, they can lock it in and it will look really professional.
I have a point of view of this, but I feel like I've been talking too much. So if we get back to me, I'll go, but I want to let other people talk.
Well, for me, I think the best camera that I have is the one that's in my pocket all the time. That's the one that I use. And as I was looking back at pictures from my 3GS, from my 4, you could see the dramatic change, and I'm all for it.
I actually try to take some of the same pictures regularly with my phone so that I have here's that picture on my 3GS and my 4 and my 4S and my 5S, because I like to see the evolution of I stood in this spot and took this picture of the neon sign at Tad's Chicken and Dumplings because it says Tad's Chick Dump on it, because they intentionally do that to the sign now because it broke one time and then they fixed it and everyone here's a funny story about a restaurant outside of Portland. It's called Tad's Chicken and Dumplings. It's amazing. If any of you come here, I will gladly take you out to dinner there. And the sign, one time, the back half burned out, so it just said Tad's Chick Dump, and then they fixed it, and then everybody complained that it was fixed, and so they broke it again, and so one side is correct, and the other side is the other way. But I have that picture from every phone because I like seeing how it evolved, and I like the idea of computational photography, but sometimes I want to turn it off, and I don't like the fact that as of now, I don't know any way to adjust any of those things. Like, I don't want an HDR photo. Don't give that to me. Just give me, I want it blown out because all I really want of this person is the silhouette, or all I really, I want the black in this to be super dark, and I don't ever need the detail in that image because that's what I want it to look like. Let me have that. And I don't, so far, the only way to get the control out of the camera that I want, and I'm limited in like what my photography foo actually is, but being able to adjust those things for myself is really important to me. So for the most part, I tend not to use the stock camera app. I use something else, and that fallback app for when I really want to fool with exposure and things like that, like, has changed over the years. But I want the opportunity to change that to be so that I can adjust what those levels are like, or if I want none at all.
Mike, you had a question or comment?
Yeah, just in what you were saying, Kelly, I was kind of thinking the same thing. Computational photography is great as long as it doesn't get in the way of what you want to do. So it would be great to have the flat raw file as a secondary that you can pull out as well as the computational files to work with all that if you need to do professional level stuff, or turn it off completely, like you said. Yeah, if it gets in the way of things for professional to use at a regular, because they're touting the iPhone now as a professional photography and movie device all the time. So if it gets in the way of that, I think it's not a good thing.
My guess is that we will have settings so that we can turn off the parts that we don't want. For example, if you go into the camera settings right now on your iPhone, you can turn off HDR.
Right.
So I'm betting we will have similar settings for the other features for the camera on the iPhone XS line.
Well, it won't matter to me anytime soon because I got an 8 last year. The only year they were available because it's about to be 86th. So like most of that stuff isn't going to matter to me for the next year anyway, because I'm not getting a 10 or a 10 SE30 or a 10 BBQ or a 10 XXX or whatever they're calling them. Yeah.
Mike Potter, you've been awfully quiet. I know you have to have some thoughts on this. Anything you want to share, or are you just going to continue to be quiet?
I'm an observational type of guy.
Since when?
No, let's go back to the Air Kit real quick, because the one thing I feel like you guys skipped over, and I think that this was just an amazing demo, is that Home Court app.
Yeah, I was going to talk about it too.
This is something that I feel like they Sherlocked an entire industry in this quick little demo of this app. When you have whole industries built up around selling equipment to allow coaches to take shots of their players and figure out what angle the shot is and where they're getting the best shot percentages from and all that kind of stuff. And it's built right there in their iPhone 10.
Yeah, there's a batting app out. I'm watching MLB.TV. It's like every other commercial. It's like you put this thing on the end of your bat, and it shows you your swing angle, your arc, your exit velocity, and all that stuff.
Right.
And I looked at that, and it's like, it's in the phone, and somebody was sitting next to me and go, well, that's stupid. What would I ever use that for? And I'm like, no. Just look at the camera now. You can get so much. Well, they said that they're going to be able to put like 512 gigabytes of storage in now. You're basically sectioning off the camera that people only use the parts they really need.
Yeah, just don't strap the phone to the end of the bat. You want to avoid that.
Jeff needs to know that because Jeff has an idea. The thing that I was the most curious about was, well, first of all, how fast are the Portland Trailblazers getting their mitts on this app? First of all, that was my number one thought. Because it's not like Dame needs any help, but let me tell you, Myers' game runs hot and cold, and that's a whole other podcast, and I'm going to try and keep myself from going down the basketball rabbit hole right now. But when is that going to expand out? Because the only one they showed was basketball.
Yeah,
Jeff, that's what they were showing was basketball. Yeah. So I want to know, golf, like when golf swing information is going to be valid in that app, in an app like that. A friend of mine texted me and said, my dad wants this for bowling because there's so much intricate stuff that goes into throwing a bowling ball that being able to record that information accurately and be able to track the outcome of that effectively is also going to be really interesting. So I'm curious about that. And that was actually what I thought of when, talking about Sherlocking in industry. It wasn't so much basketball. It was like all that kind of stuff. Cause like my dad's used a couple of those different, the camera stands over here and you try to take your golf swing and see what happens. And I'm curious to see how something like this expands out.
Yeah. Your Portland Timbers are going to use it. Your Trailblazers are going to use it. You don't have a Major League Baseball team that I'm aware of.
Yet. It's a thing we're working on.
I'm sure you have some awesome minor league teams, but you're absolutely right. Bowling and golf are ideal for this type of app. And as we were talking about on the show today, Dave, this is very I'm going to oversimplify this. This is simple to do because the areas from which you can shoot on a basketball court are a known entity. We know how large that area is. We know how high off the ground the basketball net is. Same thing with a professional soccer field. We know that with golf swings are a little bit different, but in general, the major consideration there is probably the height of the golfer. Maybe not. I don't know much about golf, so what do I know?
And the club and the handedness. Apparently, Mike and I are going to go start a sports podcast about Apple technology when we're done here.
There is the club in the hand, but the clubs vary in length too.
Right. But I mean, you'd have to do it per club. There's a whole lot
of geometry and math that go into golf.
Yeah, that's based on the height of the golfer. Bowling, you've got the weight of the ball. You've got you've got all different kinds of things, but there are known quantities that you can enter into the app and then have the app say, okay, well, great. I know you've got a 16-pound ball. I know you're 6'3", and so this is what you need to pay attention to as you're approaching the foul line.
Well, and no extra stuff. Like the person who you're recording as they take the basketball shots, for example, doesn't have to wear some sort of sensor on their shoe or on their arm or anything like that. And the same with bowling and golf. Like if you are wearing a thing in order to track your swing or baseball, like if you're wearing something or that thing that you buckle on the end of the bat, that's changing your swing because it's a thing that is influencing whether it's impeding or not. What you're doing and what you're going to do when you don't wear that thing or don't have that on the end of the bat is going to be different.
But could
you now need an $800 phone? Yeah, you need an $800 phone and a tripod. That's what you need.
And the reason that's awesome,
thousands of dollars worth of equipment that used to be out there too.
Exactly.
Right.
I mean, you can save a lot of money just by buying the phone now.
Yeah.
Right. Well, which to me is awesome because I'm left-handed, and a lot of that stuff when they make it is for right-handed people tending to be male. And so like if a left-handed girl needs help with a golf swing, like I'm SOL when it comes to that kind of thing. So it's much nicer that now you don't have to have anything additional in order to make that a reality.
The new iPhone 10s are mostly right-handed. You have to make sure you get the right model.
Yeah.
The lens is on the other side.
Is that what the R means? It means right-handed?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
Actually, I think it means rehash, but that's a whole nother.
Oh,
Mike Bronner brought up something that
Zing.
Mike Bronner's taking the thoughts right out of my head, and that is that we're talking about Apple disrupting an industry. This was a third-party app that was disrupting an industry.
Right.
This was not Apple. So
no, it wasn't. It wasn't Apple, but
it's the technology.
Yeah, it's
because Apple would never try to disrupt another industry with their own features.
Right.
And my gosh, this app developer is only charging $7.99 for unlimited shots. I mean, think about what these teams pay thousands of dollars for this type of software, where someone can just take an app like this and be able to test out somebody. I mean,
okay.
Yeah, and they're all kind of. I mean, as a golfer, I can tell you there are all kind of apps out there that will measure all kind of things with your swing, with or without external sensors of one kind or another. This just maybe takes it to another level with with the computational capabilities of these phones. Guys, we're starting to run short on time, and I want to make sure we get around because we really haven't touched the iPhone as much as I wanted to, but because we're running short on time.
Well, none of us were there, so none of us have touched the iPhone as much as we want to.
Well, yeah. Who's going to buy what? Who's going to upgrade to what? Either watch or iPhone. So Kelly,
I've already got my. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, Kelly, you held up your arm first, so.
I was holding it up to silently show you, like the watch. I'm upgrading the watch. Like I said, I got an 8 last year, so I'm gonna rock this for another year. We'll see if they just add more letters next year, or if next year's iPhone goes to 11. I can't imagine Craig Federighi is going to pass up an opportunity like that. As far as a marketing slogan, this one goes to 11, and it will come in none more black. I hope. And so I'm not super interested in the ones this year, but I think part of that is also because Mr. Kelly has an iPhone 10. So like I still have the possibility of occasionally sending somebody Memoji if that's a thing that really needs to happen.
Okay. David, since you were next.
I already put my iPhone upgrade program pre-order for the XS Max. I'm going to go with that. Going to hold off on the watch since I have a Series 3, see how it goes. But there's potential future for that. So,
okay. Jeff,
I'm on the annual upgrade plan for the iPhone. So even though I really like my iPhone 10, I'll be getting the 10s, and I have an Apple Watch Series 3, but the ECG, the new heart stuff, that's worth the price of admission right there. So I will be getting a 40 millimeter sport Apple Watch Series 4.
Okay.
When they offer the trade-in, which I thought was a nice thing that they did point out, is that if you're not on a plan like that and you do want to take your stuff in, or maybe it's time to finally clean out that drawer of iPhones, they have Daisy that will dismantle them for you, and they do offer a trade-in program on the watch as well. So if it doesn't have a good home for you to give it to, you can always take it in and get a trade-in value for it.
Right. Frank?
I have an 8 Plus, and I really don't do that much stuff that really requires the phone. So with all the stuff they came out with on the watch today, for me personally, I think I probably have to go with that.
Okay. Chuck?
I think I said it on this show, and I've said it before. The new Apple Watch is the first one that's excited me since the original, so I'm planning on getting that. I think the upgrades to it are extremely important and valuable and substantive. Really worth getting. They're not just faster, better, sharper, whatever. This is really cool, important stuff. So I'm planning on getting an Apple Watch. I'm not going to pick one until I see it on my wrist, until I can try it, because I don't know. I have a 42-inch. I don't know whether to go to the 44, which makes me think it might be a little goofy looking, or if I'm willing to go to the 40. So I'm going to try that out before I buy it, but I do plan on getting one of those. As far as the iPhone goes, I have an older iPhone, so I'm looking to upgrade. I can't think of a reason to get anything other than the 10R though. I'm trying. I'm really trying. The R has everything I think I want in it, and I don't see. I definitely don't want the bigger size. So the X Plus Max XS phone is not for me. And I think the regular 10s. I don't know that it's a compelling enough differentiation from the R to make me want to make that jump. So as much as I would love not to get the quote unquote, budget iPhone, I can't think of a reason not to get that one at this point. So that's probably where I'll go.
Okay. Norbert, how about you?
For me this year, each year I sell my old iPhone and my old Apple Watch as soon as the new one comes out. So for me this year, it's go big or go home. Going to go with the 44 Apple Watch in space gray. And I really miss my 7 Plus screen. So I'm going to go with the Apple Tennis Match or whatever they're calling it, TJ Maxx edition.
Max.
Sponsored by Roger Federer, Tennis Match. So I'm excited.
If you're going tennis XS, you got to do Serena.
That's true.
Yeah, she needs
Ding,
to be
ding.
the spokesperson.
She needs that point.
Yeah, because I don't know if you've heard, but we call it tennis and men's tennis now because of her.
Oh, I like that a lot.
Oh,
I like that.
Just like in Portland, we call it soccer and men's soccer.
LBJ, any upgrades in your future? Whoops.
Yes, I am. Yeah, I'm going to get the Max.
Okay, that's good. Mike Potter.
Yes. The Apple Watch. Okay, first let me go to what Chuck said a moment ago. Chuck Latorna said is that I think the 10R is really the sweet spot. I think that's probably the best one to zero in on. I think that the others may be a little too much, and I think for what the features it offers, I think the 10R is an excellent value. That said, the Apple Watch Series 3 last fall was the first one I felt compelled to purchase. That's the one I have, and I'm very happy with it. I don't feel like I need to replace it. It's very cool that I can do ECG and all that, but I don't feel like I need to jump to that at this point. And then likewise, I purchased an iPhone 8 Plus last fall, and I think I'm going to stick with it too. So I'm a horrible Apple fanatic. I'm sticking with what I have.
You're the kind of guy that makes them drive to get better because they want you as a customer next year.
Exactly.
They want you back again.
That's
yeah.
a great point.
Well, one thing I did hear about the
Oh.
camera, and the reason this stuck with me, you'll find out in a minute. Somebody said when we were talking about the one lens earlier with like the portrait effects and stuff, was that the impression that they got based on the information they gave in the breakdown of what the cameras look like on the different 10 models was that it was going to be like the first iteration of the portrait effects, which I don't remember if that was the 7 Plus or the 8 Plus, where we first got portrait, the portrait lighting and different things. And the reason they remember it is because it was Alex Lindsay, and he said, my daughter has very curly hair, much like you, Kelly. And that first generation was very hard on like the borders of her hair. And so like in the portrait lighting and stuff, it didn't come out quite so great. Like, like when her hair was in the shot, like, today we saw a lot of shots of like people's hair blowing in the wind and stuff. And that was one thing that he pointed out was in those pictures, like initially, that some of that wasn't super fab. And so that second lens on the 10 last year really upped their game on some of those. So like if some of what you want is the photography piece out of the phone, that would be the only reason I would think maybe you might want to look a little closer at the difference between the R and the S.
Hey, Kelly, I just want to stop you there because I think I can help you with that. So the portrait effect is a software feature. The 10R, whatever, 10X, please forgive me. The one with the R in it.
The color one? The one that comes in colors?
Yes, thank you. Has the same main lens as the 10X. So the portrait mode is going to be as good on the R as it is on the X. The thing you're going to lose is optical zoom and maybe some low light stuff. So,
okay. Well, I'm not getting one, so I'm not missing anything.
okay.
But.
So I still don't think that computational photography is the be all and end all, because I think at some point you just need big glass on a real lens to do some of that stuff, and it's incredibly important. And I stayed out of that part of the conversation because it kind of goes down a rabbit hole. But I wouldn't pick the X over the R for that reason. I think you're going to be fine with this because most of that's done in software.
Thank you for that. That's a good thing to know, because I didn't realize where the breakdown was on where that actually happens. So that's good to know.
And the 10R won't be available until late October, so there will be a waiting time for those people.
Yep.
Right.
Which is odd to me that you would make people wait for the budget version. Last year, everybody waited a month for the 10. I got my phone a month before Mr. Kelly got his. So
they're having production issues with the LCD screen, so it doesn't get to ship right away.
Yeah, and that's a key difference too. We didn't even mention the R is an LCD screen. The other 10Xs are OLED screens. So if that's important to you, you should take that into consideration too.
The only OLED as of yesterday was the 10, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
So if you had anything else, if you had any other model,
you had LCD.
Yeah.
Then you're not going to notice the difference going to the R.
That's right.
So, okay.
Exactly.
Did I miss anybody on the upgrade question?
We missed you. What do you get, Chuck?
Mike, I'm sorry.
Oh, we missed you.
So I'm going to get the watch. I'm still on Series 0. The watch is one thing for sure. I was kind of sad that they didn't have the SE2 anymore because I was looking for the smaller form factor. So I'll probably go with the XR just because it's the better price and it seems to have most of the 90% of the other functionality. So I guess the only other question I had when I was looking at this was I was surprised there wasn't more battery life due to savings with the OLED screen on the XS and XX Max. They only eked out another 30 minutes for some reason.
But they were comparing
to the previous OLED, right?
The previous X, not to the
right.
Right.
So
you get an extra hour and a half on the R, I believe, from the 8.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I'll probably get in the XR and the watch.
Okay. To answer, I guess whoever asked it, I've already placed my order because I too am on the regular upgrade program. So I'm just going to stick with the smaller form factor because I really like that. I liked my large phone, but I have to admit that when the 10 came out, it seemed to fit a lot easier in my pants pocket and in the breast pocket of my jackets. So I think I'm going to stick with that this time. See how it goes.
Because you wear those tight jeans, Chuck.
Yeah, exactly.
That makes a big difference.
Yeah, and I definitely will get the watch for.
I will never get invited back to another show.
We'll get invited
I'm just going to point out that I already said that Apple not announcing a line of women's pants with pockets that fit these is already they're doomed. Obviously, because nothing even fits this, let alone all the 10s they put out already. I can't even fit this in the pocket of most of the pairs of pants that I wear that are women's pants.
Tight pants.
That's maybe if I don't usually title episodes, but that might be the title of this. Tight pants.
Yeah. It needs to be Chuck Joyner's tight pants.
Right. Oh no.
My Chuck Joyner will buy mom jeans.
This part of the show will be edited out.
Chuck Joyner's mom jeans this week on MacVoices.
Guys, thank you very much. This has been an experiment. I said it might be chaos. I think we delivered. Thank you very much. So I will obviously put some information up on lower thirds or whatever for each of you so that folks can find you when you're not here. But thank you all for coming and participating in this experiment. I hope that you all enjoyed it. Folks, I hope you enjoyed it too. This is something that we may try to do in different variations as we go forward, but it definitely opens up some new possibilities. So happy upgrading, everyone.
Thanks for the invite.
Cheers.
Everybody.
Thanks.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is MacVoices. We will be back with more soon. Thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our MacVoices Facebook group and get more out of your Apple Tech with MacVoices magazine, free on Flipboard. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us at patreon.com/MacVoices and join these folks who help keep MacVoices coming to you. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by Cashfly at cashfly.com. Thank you, guys. That was interesting.
Yeah.
It's always amazing how well you are herding cats.
Interesting is a word for it.
I had everything under control right up to the point where I didn't. And
You mean when I showed up, don't you?
Wasn't that
When Kelly showed up.
Yeah, exactly.
well,
Yeah.
yeah.